Hello guys, it's time for FPL, back with another video, and in today's video we're going to be doing a wildcard draft for Game Week 7. Now, obviously, the main Game Weeks of wildcard would be Game Week 7 and 8. Of course, if you haven't already done in Game Week 4, I have wildcard in Game Week 4, and I think I've gained an advantage from that. I'll talk about that later in the video, but if you're not already familiar with this channel, please like and subscribe. And anyway, let's get into it. So, Game Week 6, I managed to get 76 points, just in case you're wondering. But now we're going to be moving to my wildcard draft. Now, so this is my team. I have made a transfer actually. I've got rid of Ronaldo for Lukaku, just because I'd either get Lukaku in now, next game week, or the game week after. And I just think, after watching Ronaldo, is not really the best chance with Lukaku. He's sort of the standout player in Chelsea's attack, if you like. Whereas with Ronaldo, obviously Fernandes, Greenwood, Rashford when he comes back, Sancho. There's quite a few players there, and with Chelsea, you got Werner, who barely ever starts and he doesn't get any goals. I mean, he's good with assists, but that's perfect with Lukaku. You've obviously got Havertz, who just hasn't really pleased anyone that much, or at least as much as we were expecting. And Lukaku, I just brought him in now. I think he'd be good. And one thing for all new FPL players is you really do want the players, the sort of differential players for each team. So Saint Maximin and Sarr, both of those players, especially when Wilson's injured, Saint Maximin's a brilliant option, really the only main Newcastle attacker, and then Sarr, pretty much Watford's only real threat. So anyway, let's get on to the draft after all of that waffle. So, obviously, Chelsea and Man City have some good fixtures coming up. So do Liverpool. But, I mean, it is quite hard if you're doing a wildcard this week, because obviously Liverpool and Man City are facing each other. And that is the main reason I personally would rather wildcard in Game Week 8. But anyway, we will be making a wildcard draft based on that. Sorry. First thing with my team I'd want to do is we'll get rid of all of the players that basically I'm not going to or I may not have in the wildcard draft. So, we'll get rid of all of these players that I may not have. Jota out. Sarr, I may not have Sarr. Decore, I may not have him. Rafinha is pretty much essential. Lukaku. And then my front three I'm probably going to stick with now. Okay, we'll start with goalkeepers. Now, there's three main goalkeepers that I'm definitely considering. I'm not considering, obviously, because I've already used my wildcard in Game Week 4. But three goalkeepers that I would definitely recommend considering. Now, for the 4 million goalkeeper, Ben Foster, pretty much, you sort of have to have him in. So, this is just because, of all 4 mil keepers, he's the only one that I can see starting pretty much every game. Obviously, Daniel Backman's coming close, but there's no other 4 million keeper like him. He's a brilliant keeper, but as an FPL asset anyway, he plays quite a bit over Backman. And we're still going to see if he keeps his spot. And that's another reason why he perhaps could wildcard in Game Week 8, see what goalkeeper Watford field. But out of all 4 million goalkeepers, he looks the most promising to start. And when you have a player that's going to be sitting on your bench, you want them to be starting just in case they want to come on. You don't just want to buy some random injury player. Of course, unless, for example, at the start of the season, quite a few players go down price. So maybe one of those you could make a case for. So anyway, enough waffle about that. So Foster is a very good pick in my opinion. And then for the other goalkeeper, there's three players that I'm considering. One is Sarr, mainly just because of Wolves. Wolves have some brilliant fixtures. The other one is Sanchez for Brighton. Why is he not coming up? I do not know why he's not coming up. There he is. No, that's not him. Oh, it's because of the weird accent that he's got in his name. But anyway, Sanchez for Brighton. Pretty sure we all know who he is. He's obviously going to be starting for Brighton. Brighton have the best defence in the league for the obviously lower in the table teams. 4.6 million now. He did go up in price, but quite a lot of players already have him. And if you're on your wild card, it would really not be a bad decision to keep him. So Sanchez is there, and then one that not many people are thinking about, but I think will be thought about more, is Ramsdale. Now, obviously, Arsenal have some really good fixtures that look really promising against Tottenham, and altogether, Arsenal are not that much of a bad team, you know. Look at their players individually. Arguably, they're sort of high mid-table in the league if you look at all the players individually. So, Ramsdale, I think, is a very good pick. So, between Ramsdale, Sarr, and Sanchez are the main three starting keepers that you want, and Foster's a 4 million. Anyway, enough about goalkeepers. Now, on to defenders. Now, quite a lot of people are doubling up on Chelsea and Man City. Now, with Chelsea, another reason why I'd like to go wildcard in Game Week 8, and obviously I will be making a video in Game Week 8 to specify that. But anyway, basically, Chelsea, Rudiger is pretty much the only defender in their team that I can see regularly starting. Obviously, Thiago Silva, with his old age and injuries, that's not always confirmed. Marcos Alonso is obviously fighting with Chilwell, and then you've got Reece James, you've got Azpilicueta, you've got so many wing backs. But at the moment, Rudiger looks like the most solid. Alexander-Arnold, although he's playing Manchester City, obviously another reason why he'd want a wild card in Game Week 8. This should probably be titled video, why you should wild card in Game Week 8. But Alexander-Arnold is just, you know, he's one of the best players in FPL, especially for defenders-wise. So I definitely recommend keeping him. But otherwise, Connor Cody, Great Wolves fixtures, I would honestly recommend having him. I mean, or it doesn't have to be Connor Cody, it could be Semedo, it could be any sort of 4.5 Wolves defender that is guaranteed starting. Cody and Semedo are the only two that spring to mind really for me. 4.5 million, obviously, some pretty much the cheapest defenders you can really ask for. He is the main one that I'm thinking about. Quite a lot of people are going for Semedo, and rightly so, you know. It's sort of, I'd say Semedo is probably the better pick. But I'm just not convinced that he's starting. I mean, I say that, he probably is just going to start every game, so I'll put Semedo in, but obviously he's 4.9 mil. So, I thought he was 4.5. Anyway, though, we will go for Cody. Just restore player. So, we'll go for Cody in there. And then other defenders, I think Cancelo is definitely a really good pick. I mean, he's 6.1 now, but he is just a very, very good player. Man City, pretty much guaranteed starting. Obviously, a few doubts at the start of the season with Zinchenko and Walker both competing for his place. But at the moment, it looks brilliant. Gets loads of assists for Man City. The occasional goal as well. Clean sheet. I mean, it's brilliant. Only for 6 mil as well. I mean, I would argue to have him in my team if it was 7 million. 7.5 would be a bit of a stretch. But anyway, Cancelo there. And then for another defender, you ideally want to go for a 4 mil player or 3.9 now. 3.9, I reckon the best is Omar Daily. 4 million, probably Williams for Norwich, as you know, he's starting quite a bit, pretty much every game. Obviously, Norwich aren't going to keep any clean sheets, and he does pose a little bit of an attacking threat. If you've got a bit of extra money, you want to go for Livramento. Now, I mean, with this wildcard draft, you basically want to be going 4 at the back, especially with Chelsea and Man City fixtures improving. I mean, you want to have at least 2 players from both of those teams combined. If you don't, then I'd be asking a serious question about your wildcard draft. And if you've got a bit more money than that, Ben White seems like a really good pick. I mean, Arsenal have some good fixtures. Ben White starting every game. Obviously, going down to 4.4 million, absolutely bargain. If you look at Arsenal's fixtures, absolutely pretty much fantastic, apart from Liverpool. And only the thing with Ben White, you could honestly keep him to the end of the season as long as he's fit, and Arsenal do well. They look really promising against Tottenham. He looks like he's starting, and whenever he's got a bad fixture, it's simple, you just bench him, you know. You got 4 other playing defenders. But yeah, that's how that will go. Now, Rafinha, we're moving on to our midfield now. Rafinha, obviously, with the injury doubt, I mean, I would argue definitely to keep him in. Obviously, wildcard right now, if you are definitely playing on wildcarding, but personally, I'd obviously, due to Game Week 8, like I've probably said so many times in the video, and you're probably sick of it already, but Rafinha seems like a really solid pick, and Salah, obviously. Now, in the midfield, Doucouré, I mean, he's 5.5 million, pretty on the cheaper end of, you know, that 5.5 to 6.5 million scale, where there are so many good players this season. Obviously, he's got Man United and West Ham next. Arguably, 2 fixtures you don't want to play a player against. But Man United defensively do not look the best. So he's definitely a good pick. And then in the midfield, Sarr, I would personally not have him in my wildcard draft. I mean, if you look at his fixtures that he's got coming up, I've got Leeds, and then look at that. In his next, 7 fixtures, like, I'd argue 5 of them are red. I mean, it's really not the best, especially for Watford. I mean, you could keep him in, but personally, I would not have him. Um, Definitely keep him in your teams for this week, though, especially if you're not wildcarding. Obviously, he's against Leeds. Leeds, arguably the worst defence in the league, maybe. Newcastle as well have a bad defence, but definitely not Sarr in your wildcard draft if you are wildcarding this week. And another reason, and yet another reason to wildcard in Game Week 8, because you do want Sarr in your team this week. Anyway, moving on to the other midfielders. So you've obviously got Sarr in there. Now in midfielders, there's quite a big range between 5.5 and 6 million. Now, I'm just going to pretty much look here and name all the midfielders that I would consider buying. So Ben Rama, obviously one of them. Now, the West Ham fixtures are alright. I mean, obviously, they got Brentford next. Everton, who are really not a red team. That should be, or what do you call it, plain grey, white, whatever you want. And then Spurs, arguably not the best fixture, and then Aston Villa. I mean, it's alright. It's an alright run of fixtures. So Ben Rama could definitely be a shout. Who else have you got? Bernardo Silva. Now this is one guy. Obviously, he's a bit higher. I'd honestly really, really highly recommend having him in your wildcard draft. I mean, he looks like he's going to be starting for Man City. I mean, if you look at those points that he's got, that is pretty good. You know, he's got 10 points in that one game, and he's got 4, 3, 3. You could have an argue of not. You could argue a case of not having him in your team, but I can only really see him getting more points. Now, I feel like he's got a bit unlucky. I mean, he's doing really well for Man City. I mean, he's pretty much playing 90 minutes in every game, occasionally coming off. Obviously, he's not the best option, but for a good option for Man City, always probably going to get 3 points or above. I mean, you could argue definitely not having him in, but in my opinion, he's a pretty good option. But for my wildcard draft, I would not have him in. Now, the other one that I think you definitely need to have is Grealish. Now, he's looking like he's starting basically every game, and with the Man City fixtures coming up, pretty good, obviously, apart from Liverpool. Another reason why you shouldn't wildcard in Game Week 8. I can really see him powering on in the Premier League and getting them goals. Pep seems to really, really like him. And rightly so. He's a very good player. A very unique playing style as well. So, Grealish, I think, is definitely a very good shout. And then for your midfielder, you've got 5.6 mil left. Now, there's so many midfielders that you can buy in this range, so we'll just go through them again. You obviously got Sai's gone up to 6.3 now. You've got Saka. So there are quite a few players. Traore, you could argue in, but obviously he was on the bench starting. He wasn't actually starting. Damari Gray, you could find a way to get him in. There are quite a lot of players. Townsend as well that you'd love to have. Now, for me, Damari Gray is a bit like the Lingard incident at the end of last season. You know, I think it's something like 3 shots, 3 goals, something like that with Damari Gray, and that is just simply unsustainable. Townsend, obviously, on penalties for Everton, as we've seen, or at least until Calvert-Lewin's not back. But yeah, Townsend could seriously be a good pick. But for midfield, I mean, we'll leave the option blank for now, and we'll just pretty much put a bench fodder in. Maybe Brownhill, obviously 4.4 million. Now, we've always got 1.2 million yet. We'll come back to that and maybe pick an option in midfield after I have talked about my front three. So Lukaku at the moment, you could... Why is he in the Man U shirt? Anyway, you could argue to not have him in your team, obviously when Ronaldo's on form. Or not really on form, but he's playing for Man United. But Man United are really not a team to fear now. I'm just going to go into a bit of a sort of chapter in this video. Now, Man United are just not really a team to fear, you know. Their defence really does not look solid. It looks like there's a few gaps here and there, you know. You got some pretty teams low down the table scoring against them, and I really do not think they're a team to fear, you know. The only main 3 teams to fear are Chelsea, Man City and Liverpool. I mean, Man United's defence is pretty bad. I mean, you definitely don't want to be playing any defenders against Man United. They arguably have one of the best attacks in the league, but playing attackers against Man United or midfielders is really not a bad thing. So, Ronaldo, I mean... Everyone's really hyping him up. He's not really playing for the best team in the league, you know. I mean, Man U, I'd even argue that they'll have a bit of a battle getting Champions League. Now, Obviously, they probably still will, because the main 4 teams in the league, obviously, everyone knows Chelsea, Man City, Liverpool, Man U. But, at the moment, Man U do not look that solid, and they really do need to get that fixed in their game. And Antonio is the last one. Now, if you're wildcarding, I mean, look at those fixtures. They're really not the best. He's got, obviously, Brentford, who you want him to keep. Obviously, another reason why definitely want to wildcard in Game Week 8. And then Spurs, definitely not the best fixture. Aston Villa, good fixture. Liverpool, Wolves, Man City. They're not really the best fixture. So you could argue getting Michail Antonio out. Now, in terms of Michail Antonio replacements, there are quite a few. Now, looking at these options, Calvert-Lewin when he comes back in, definitely. Ings, if we look at his fixtures, he could be a shout in the near future. He's got Spurs next, and then Aston Villa, and then Arsenal, which are really not a team to fear. Then West Ham, really not a team to fear. Ings could definitely be a shout, especially if you're wildcarding in Game Week 8. But for now, we'll take Ings out and look at some other options. Now, Bamford, obviously we're waiting on injury news. You never know if he's going to be available. Jimenez, definitely a shout. I mean, look at the way he's playing. He obviously got a goal. I think he's obviously after the head injury. He's always going to be a bit cautious, but he managed to get the goal against, who was it? Southampton, wasn't it? He managed to get a goal against Southampton. I reckon he'll be on form now. Get a few goals, maybe got 1 goal in every 2 games, sort of average. Maybe an assist here and there. So yeah, Bamford if he's fit. Raúl Jimenez if he is obviously playing well, and just if you can afford him, pretty much. Ivan Toney is the one that I would be mainly going for. Now, obviously, wildcard in Game Week 8 would be a bit better, but I mean, Chelsea, you'd probably just bench him. He's one of those players that if he has bad fixture, you'll just simply bench him. But Game Week 9 and onwards, you definitely want to have him. So that is definitely a valid option. And then obviously you got some more money in midfield to spend, 7 million to be precise. So you could pretty much get everyone you want, or anyone you want, should I say. So you could get Bernardo, as I said. You could get pretty much any player, to be honest. So overall, that is the way I'd be planning, and that is the way I'll go. Saint Maximan, I definitely recommend having him for your wildcard draft. He's on form, only really attacking player for Newcastle. Now this midfield option could really be anyone. I'll just recap over that. So it could be Ben Rama's a good shout. We'll just put Ben Rama in for now. Where is he? We'll just put in Ben Rama for now. And obviously you still got 0.5 million that you could spend. So you could upgrade Ramsdale to Sarr. You could really do any of those choices. Anyway, this has been a rather long video waffling about wildcards. But anyway, I hope you enjoy the video. There's quite a lot of information in the video that would really help you out. Now, the formation that you want to play is a 4 at the back, 5 out of stretch, and then 5 in midfield. Occasionally 4 if Corey hasn't got a good fixture, and then usually maximum of 2 up front. Obviously, unless they all have good fixtures, but occasionally you just have Lukaku up front if Tony and St. Maximin do not have a good fixture. Now, instead of Tony, I mean, Tony is quite a questionable pick. You really want to bring in Game Week 9, so maybe Ings, put in Ings. Now, obviously, you've got to find some money, so maybe downgrade Ben Rama into some sort of 5-1 midfielder. Just some late changes here. To be honest, probably just a 4.5 midfielder. Or 4.4, maybe Brownhill. So he'd just be the bench fodder. Occasionally you go for a midfielder when you got to take the Corey out. And you obviously got 1 million to spend that you could really upgrade anywhere. So overall, that is probably the team I'd be looking to have while wildcarding. Hope you enjoyed this video. It's quite a lengthy one. But, obviously wildcards are quite a big discussion, especially in this part of the season. I'll make a video next week. I'll also make a summary video of my wildcard draft. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments how your Game Week 6 has gone. Let me know if you're wildcarding, anything like that. So yeah, please like and subscribe. Have a good one.